A Science of Change, podcasting by Gilmore Crosby, social scientist, author, and organization development professional since 1984. Good to be with you again. This is Gil Crosby, and this is another one of my podcasts. And this time I have a very special guest, Mr. David Ledesma. How are you, David?
Very good. Thank you, Gil.
It's a pleasure to be with you. And this is the first podcast I've done where I'm actually with the person. So this is historic. And so this is all part of my upcoming book, View from a Target, dedicated to Mr. Cotton Mears, who came up with the title. He was going to write that book. And this particular conversation is about your use. David is executive now with DuPont, running their largest production site in the world, Richmond, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And but he, along with that, is a man who has used Cotton Mears as a consultant over and over again throughout his, for the last couple decades at least. So
yes,
that's what this podcast is about. Is just to hear about how you first met Cotton and what sorts of adventures you went on together as you tried to change the culture of organizations. So,
well, thanks, Gil. First of all, I met Cotton well over 20 years ago. I was at my first leadership assignment in Chicago, Illinois, building a brand new plant, going through a startup process, hiring process, getting operators trained, most of them which never actually worked at a manufacturing plant. And somehow I was pretty good at the technical stuff, but very unaware of the people part of the job. And but anyway,
you were an engineer?
I was a production manager. Yes, I was I wore several hats because it was a small facility. Mm-hmm. This was a plant of 20-some people.
Okay.
And as a result, I guess they put in the young guy that was willing to work 80 hours or whatnot and do 5 different jobs.
Valuable.
But, with that comes, maybe lack of focus in certain areas that I was not aware of. And in my time there, which is about 3 years, I had 2 union votes while I was there. And
so people were unhappy with something.
Right? And my first thought on that was, well, this area is all unionized, so they must just want more of the same, right? And my boss was a lot wiser than me, thank goodness. And he had been working with Cotton in his plant in Michigan. So he said to me, listen, I'm going to send you some help. I think there's something going on there. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm sure, it's something we can help you with. And I say, oh, great, because looks like there's some work that needs to be done here. And, I'm doing everything I can. I'm working hard, but, we're making the pounds, but people are certainly not happy, right? They're looking for representation or leadership in other places, right? When it was so obvious to me that, hey, why aren't they coming to me? What's the problem, right?
Just you and 20 people.
It should be the easiest thing in the world, right? And then, one of these days, this guy shows up in my plant. His name is Cotton, first of all. I didn't know what to think about that name at first. But then he's standing on the hallway, and then I come in, and I probably even walk by him. And somebody told him, he came with an HR person. And the HR person said, hey, this is Cotton Mears. He's going to be helping you out here. And I remember looking at Cotton, he had this very interesting look with the beard all the way down to his belly, smile, from ear to ear. And I'm thinking, my God, this is a battleground, man. You don't look like the lawyers I've been working with or the people I've been talking to about fixing things here, right? And I remember actually calling my boss later in the day and asking him if he was pranking me. I really did. Hey, what is this? Some type of a joke? I mean, we're having a union vote here. I'm dealing with lawyers, and there's a lot of stress going on here. Why are you sending me this guy? And he's like, well, you just got to be patient and go through the process, right? And I did. I wanted things to be better, and I sucked it up, and I sat through some Cotton called it systems assessment. He essentially got the leadership team together, a few operators as well, and start talking about what's working well and what's not, and how can we make things better.
Sure, the same thing you just had me doing today.
Yes, absolutely.
All week.
Very similar, But, it didn't take me long to start listening to Cotton. He had a very special way to deliver information. Threw me off a little bit that he was a former union steward.
Like worried you?
Yeah, worried me since I was trying to avoid unionization. My plan didn't make any sense to me, actually, But very quickly I started to listen, and by day 2 I was actually taking notes. I wasn't taking notes on day 1, but on day 2 I started taking notes because some of these concepts really made a lot of sense. And anyway, as a result of that, we got through that union vote, and next year comes around. I still had another union vote, but much less people voting for the union. So I had picked up a few things from Cotton that helped me be successful. And the plant was, by the way, very successful, fortunately, on safety and production. And as a result of that, the same, leader that brought Cotton to me say, "Hey, now you're coming to work for me." And I was like, "Where are we going?" And Michigan. That was actually the largest cement plant at the time. And I had to put together an engineering team, and I was transitioning into technical. But at the same time, my leader, who was the site leader of this large plant in Michigan, he was doing cotton training for 350 people. And it just blew my mind. I said, I thought this guy Cotton comes in to fix places. This plant, and by the way, this plant ran really well. It was like the flagship on productivity and safety. And I asked him, I asked my plant manager, I said, why are you having Cotton here? I thought you only send him where there's problems. And he said, I want this plant to be even better. And I participated in a few of the sessions that were actually taking place, and I saw how much the skills really were helping everybody. How every operator, mechanic, engineer was taking notes, and how they quickly internalized that as a life skill. That's the big difference between cotton training and maybe some of the training I got in my MBA, whatever other business courses I've taken. It doesn't feel like a life skill as much as a business skill. Cotton really,
and maybe something to get through.
Yes,
something to really. Well, I'm really learning something.
Yes. And I've been married for 25 years, and I actually credit some of these skills to me hanging in there for this long as well.
And of course, Cotton had taken what we call a tough stuff and really done his own version of it, but it was still a mix of teaching theory in his own wonderful way, with his own stories and so on, like about the pressure building up in a bean pot, and then little Cotton putting a cloth over the steam valve or vent, and then having it all explode on his grandmother.
That was one of the stories.
Followed by subsequent discipline.
Yes.
But anyway, as a way of talking about emotion. So he has a great way of doing it, but it was essentially theories that are practical, like that we teach, the interpersonal gap and so on, and then T group, learning from your immediate interactions with the people that are in the training. And so, which you're continuing to have people do in locations now, even though we've unfortunately lost cotton, of course. So,
Yeah, that was a big one for me there. It took me a while to get comfortable in tea groups.
sure.
The whole thing about not having a topic to talk about.
Uh-huh.
Right? I remember the silence at first, when Cotton would put us in the circle and say, "Okay, so tell me what you think, want and feel," and we would all just stare at each other. But eventually, stuff will come up,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because we were all working together, interacting on things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And never let us get away with if we're talking about somebody, to make sure that you're talking to that person, right, and not talking to somebody else about that person.
Mm-hmm.
But most importantly, how to really recognize those moments. He calls it activation. That we all get activated and really take a breather, do some paraphrasing, and then get back to what the real question is,
Mm-hmm.
what the real issue is. I do believe, and I learned this from you as well, that a lot of our conflicts, start with misunderstandings,
Mm-hmm.
but we never take the time to clear that.
Mm-hmm.
So lots of great communication skills, lots of great conflict resolution skills, good emotional intelligence, and then in this plant as well, in this Michigan plant, I got to experience my first tippy with Cotton. So
Okay.
Cotton ran a very large, problem solving session,
Mm-hmm.
on how to reduce cost. We had some headwinds coming in with higher raw material costs,
Mm-hmm.
and this jewel from the cement company was all of a sudden not going to be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So the leader brought Cotton in to do a problem solving brainstorming session. And
Like we're going to do tomorrow, except this will be a very short
yes, yep.
barrier analysis.
And what blew my mind, for whatever reason, should not, is
Mm-hmm.
that in the room where operators, mechanics, engineers,
Mm-hmm.
managers, all together,
Yeah. Mixed.
mixed, working on not just the engineers per se solving the problem. It was people that do the work,
Probably more operators than engineers
probably,
and maintenance techs. And
Yes,
yeah.
and they had very good ideas,
Uh-huh.
practical ideas,
Right.
on things we could do. These were the people actually operating the machines and
Mm-hmm.
fixing the machines.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a big takeaway from me, is the
Mm-hmm.
power of involving everybody, the shop floor, into solving problems instead of assuming that we knew what they knew.
Yeah, yeah, better than them, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
better, and solving the problems with him. So that was a big
mm-hmm.
exercise. I want to say there were 100 people in the room. This was actually at one of those social halls, places where you have Christmas parties. They had to be that big,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
accommodate all that. And
Nice.
there were lots of great ideas, which we later implemented, and had very good results for that.
Cool.
But then, life went on, and I did not see Cotton for several years after that, and I moved to a different company in Texas.
Okay.
I was down in Corpus Christi, Texas, a very complicated chemical operation.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was very aware of the people side of things, and
Mm-hmm.
I saw that there was really a need to work on the teams and get them to talk to each other, solve problems, and involve the rest of the organization in problem solving. So I actually had lost Cotton's contacts, and went on LinkedIn. And to my surprise, Cotton was on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and I just sent him a message, hoping for the best. Maybe not even thinking that he will respond, because inside of my head, I'm like, I bet you Cotton just put his profile out, but he never goes and checks it, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
He was never a big computer guy.
Mm-hmm.
And to my surprise, Cotton got back to me in just a few days, and he said, "Hey, he remembered me exactly. This was like several years later now. Remember exactly who I was. I told him what I was doing. He told me how proud he was of what I was doing. And I said, well, the next question, Cotton, is, are you up for little trip to Texas to help me work with my team here, and immediately responded yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he came in, and we did several sessions of the tough stuff. A lot of the similar concepts that I had learned in the past, and then on the last session, there was a little hurricane coming by, and I told Cotton, I said, "Listen, you got to leave, Cotton, and I know we got a day left, but you're gonna have to leave a little sooner because I don't know if you could possibly." Uh, you may be stuck here for days. This was Hurricane Harvey, Category 4, hurricane here in Texas. And Cotton, I want to say, if it wasn't the last plane, at least it was the second or the last plane. I was able to leave Corpus Christi and made it home safely, and I was thankful for that. But a lot of great work also at this plant in Corpus Christi. And
which happened to be, we unbeknownst to us at the time, I was there next door at another plant.
Yes,
Mark Horswood. I don't know if it was the exact same years or not, but
yes,
we were right around the corner. I think you said at one point you wound up with some experienced people from the.
Well, we supply chemicals to that plant.
Yeah,
we were next door,
and some workers may have come over to your plant that actually had been through tough stuff.
Yes, and they recognized the work.
Yes,
especially a guy from my power plant.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I done this before. Yes, so the material was recognized,
Well, before you go further forward, going all the way back, I mean, of course, when Cotton first arrived at that small plant,
yes,
as is true for me, we're not, we're certainly not anti-union.
No.
And we're pro places figuring out how the best to work together.
Absolutely.
And of course, if they're really working well together and there's no union, they're probably not going to call in a union, because you do that when you think you're being disrespected and
absolutely,
at risk of being mistreated and so on. And there's nothing wrong with that, I think.
Yes.
But you managed to create an atmosphere where people felt some trust for you.
Absolutely.
And that's a good thing. So I just wanted to be clear about that. I mean, my whole history goes back to my grandfather working on the railroad, and proud steel worker, and they needed the protection of a union in that environment. They weren't, wasn't like management was trying to learn how to listen or anything. And can you recall, like, the first thing Cotton said to you, or something close to that?
The words that I remember him getting me to learn or hear were one, think and feel.
Okay.
And I remember, because I have never really.
By then, you were in one of those sessions.
Well, that was from the very beginning. We had some sessions in my small plant. He said, "Hey, just let's sit and tell me what are you thinking? What are you wanting? What do you feel?"
When you would just walk past him.
Yes.
Said, "Hey, this is Cotton."
Yeah.
You remember that conversation?
Yeah, I remember shaking his hand, and I didn't say much. Because at that moment I didn't know what to think.
Well, you were shocked.
I was in shock.
He does. Now there would be photos in the book, of course, but he does look like he's right out of ZZ Top.
Absolutely. And of course, after a few sessions, Cotton was big on socializing. So that made a difference too, from me to gain some trust with Cotton. So we would go have dinner after sessions and have a few drinks, and got to know each other better. And and we happened to have a lot of common. I did a lot of martial arts back in the day. Cotton did too, and he likes shooting rifles, and I like shooting guns too. So that's there were a lot of common denominators there. And then that became the focus. It became how common we are versus what I thought he looked like or he was. It was more, okay, we got a lot in common, and you have a lot to share with me, a lot of good information. And that's one thing, back to what you asked, is what are some of the things that he would say. He will always say, I'm going to be sharing some information with you. Not necessarily I'm here to teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to share some information with you that I believe can help you.
Mm-hmm.
But he will always put it on me, right? He would say, "It's really up to you what you do with this." You know,
Cool.
what he will always do, and he will give examples of the information he will present. I remember him saying something about, you know, having a window broken on his car, right? And then telling his wife, "Hey, can you go get that taken care of? Because I'm gonna have to work. I can't do that." And not being clear on how he wanted it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wife goes and gets it fixed and pays an arm and a leg, and all of a sudden now, you know, she's back with the car and this big bill. And then he's like, "Oh, whoa, wait a minute, you didn't go to this other place that I know is cheaper, right?" And or the daughter driving the bicycle, on the
Yes, yes, I
road,
remember that story.
right? And not giving her parameters. Hey, honey, you got to drive up to here, not get on the road.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I talk to folks about information, I actually look for personal experiences
Mm-hmm.
and things, and very simple, from my daughter, from my wife, from my
Mm-hmm.
friends, or a colleague, and people tend to listen to those a lot more than. And by the way, in Taiwan, right, this thing happened, or let me tell you this case study from Harvard,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, those don't get a lot of traction,
Yeah,
as much
sure.
as your personal experience and but the clarity, looking for clear, that is something that people have always praised me on.
Mm-hmm.
Now that can be overused sometimes, right? You can get super clear to a point where it makes people uncomfortable, and you have to watch for that, and then you have to do
Or
some
maybe you
checks.
aren't paying attention to the impacts in having a
That's
dialogue.
it.
It's more of a
Yes,
speech or something.
and that was another one, right? When I mean, in my jobs, I tend to deliver a lot of decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And always ask for the impact.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's times where I can get folks involved in my decisions, but there's times that there's no time for that,
Mm-hmm.
right? That this is the direction we're going, and make sure to check on the impact on folks, right? I mean,
And it's probably pretty rare where you don't have any time to get input or
exactly.
checked on impact.
And that is exactly right. There is always time to check on impact.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever tells you that they don't have time for it,
And if you're a
that is not that
lifeguard,
accurate. Yeah, well,
but
that's
that's
yes,
generally not the case of being a plant manager.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then, and then I again I lost track of cut for a few years,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
and now I am working in New York
Uh-huh.
with the company I currently work at, specialty chemicals, and no surprise, same situation, same issues, right? We were in a tough cost position. We needed
Mm-hmm.
to do some work on that, but also there was a ton of I'm going to say uh, division between management and union.
Mm-hmm.
It was a unionized plant, and to your point earlier, I personally have no preference whether a plant is union or not. It's all about people and getting work done and having fun at work.
Mm-hmm. How to move from us and them to
Exactly. But there was a lot of that as and then when
yeah.
I get there, and there was some bad history of
Mm-hmm.
several years.
Mm-hmm.
So I called Cotton.
Mm-hmm.
I did. Now I had his number and email, so it was easier to reach
Who are you
out to
gonna
him.
call?
Yeah,
Cotton.
Cotton. Exactly. And of course, Cotton will never pick up the phone immediately, right? You had to leave a message, and he'll
Yeah,
get back to
yeah.
you in a couple of days, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I said to Cotton, "Hey, how about you coming out to Buffalo?" And Cotton said, "Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
I will do that." And then Cotton comes up to Buffalo, and Cotton doesn't look like Cotton anymore, And then I was a little afraid to ask him,
Mm-hmm.
what happened, and at dinner he tells me, "Hey, I have a condition, right? I worked at a golf course, back in the day, handle the fertilizer with my bare hands, and I probably
told that
don't have,
story today.
yeah, I probably don't have a long time
Mm-hmm.
and to go, and I just couldn't believe that he was there doing work, when he had this condition. By the way, his wife was with him as well because she wanted to see buffalo and hang out in a different place.
He's looking forward to hearing this conversation.
Absolutely. And I just could not believe that Cotton, was still there doing the work. And while he was dealing with this, personal condition. But anyway, I thank him for it. And we did several sessions, in Buffalo. And this is when Cotton told me, listen, you have a lot of work to do. And I'm going to introduce you to, a good friend of mine, colleague, and Gil, you. And so you can continue to do work. I don't know how much longer I will be able to do this. And this is when, Gil, you came aboard. And but what I would tell you is that, and Mark Horstwood as well. You brought Mark with you later on.
And I got to do several Cotton sessions with Cotton.
And follow-ups.
Which was beautiful.
Oh, yes. And then you did the follow-ups and those sessions as well. So I actually, up to that point, had not been long enough at a place to actually do a formal follow-up with my team. And with you and Mark, we did several follow-ups, with the Buffalo team. But we also did a TIPI, as well, and drove a lot of improvement.
Is our little acronym.
Yes.
Which really means involving the right people.
Yep.
Includes the hourly.
And I remember
figuring out what to do.
Yeah. And I remember the workers telling me there in Buffalo that they had never been involved in a problem solving session up to that point. And this plant had been there for 100 years.
Yeah.
So that this was a big deal. But anyway, so Cotton's last session was in Buffalo, New York. A full session. He did not miss a day. He brought his wife with him. We got to know each other very well. Really had dinner with my family as well, and Cotton's family. I think it was fantastic, to have that opportunity. And then later on, I had the honor to go to his funeral as well with you, Gil, and Mark in Central Indiana. And it was magical place, just like I always picture, a place where Cotton would live. And I understood his fashion style now, when I was there. And so half farmer, half Amish, I get it, I could see it there. But I would say that, and I told you this before, that, if I been able to get somewhere in my life professionally, a lot of credit is to what I learned from Cotton and from you as well. So I'm very appreciative of that. But I also been able to help people in leadership roles to be successful and to lead others successfully and keep the manufacturing going, man. That's what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
To continue to do this and be successful at it.
Yep. How to not create needless tension, and you don't listen to the workers just to be nice. You are nice, but you listen to the workers because they know a lot. They know more about their own individual struggles each day than anybody else does. And it's a mistake not to engage them effectively.
And thinking back on my first plant, it was 20 something people, right? The plant I'm in now is 2,000 people.
Right.
Right. And, it's been an evolution, a journey. And I feel responsible to make sure that my leaders have also this information. And you and I have been doing sessions here, and we will continue to provide them with the tools to be successful as well.
Cool. Well, it's always a pleasure working with you, and I am very grateful to Cotton for introducing us.
Yes, absolutely.
And there he was in his aluminum smelter,
Yeah.
tending the pots when Dad walked in. And then they started to get to know each other.
That's
And
right.
I do know the first thing Dad remembers Cotton saying, which is, "How are you going to help us improve our pot room? What do you know about a pot room?"
I think that I probably said the same thing to him in my head when I saw him. How are you going to help improve this plant?
Yep. And the beautiful thing about Dad and what I do, and even is that, well, you don't have to know what Cotton and the other workers know. You just have to make sure that their knowledge is being applied uh, to what's happening.
And I
So,
have a picture in my office of me and Cotton that you took in Buffalo
yep.
on his very last session. And he's wearing what it looks like a beautiful vest, right? A
Hmm.
long coat and his
Like a long wool coat,
wool
like a
coat.
Scottish farmer or something, like you're saying, Amish maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
wool coat.
and his cane
Uh-huh.
and smiling like always,
Yeah.
like on day one,
Yep.
like when I saw him 20 years before.
Yep. Beautiful man.
That's right.
And they look good together in that picture.
That's right. That's right. I was a little bit younger, that's for sure. Well,
Well,
thank you for giving me this time to talk about Cotton, somebody that changed my life,
mhm.
changed the life of many people around me, and I am committed to this legacy of helping people be better, improve,
Mhm.
and
Plus,
help
it's
help them
the
succeed.
business thing to do, right? I mean,
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
it's but yeah. So, well, thank you, and thank you for being such a great sponsor of my continuing work. So,
Until the next time.
yeah. So that is a wrap. Thank you, listeners. Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, I appreciate you listening. This again is Gil Crosby, and I want you to take advantage of what's available to you. I have many free materials. I am happy to talk to people about their situations, especially if you're trying to create change, either social change or organization change. We have frequent workshops that are available, T group workshops. If you have never been in a T group with us, then don't miss it in your life. It's many people have said to me, of all the trainings I've ever received, I got this one 30 years ago, and it's the only one that stuck with me. You're learning from your actual interactions with the other participants and with the faculty. The faculty are walking the same talk that they're teaching of behavioral skills. It's a training workshop. That's what the T stands for. This is done in the spirit of the creation of T groups by Kurt Lewin and his associates. It's for groups, it's for teams. That's how it was originally designed. It is a opportunity to learn about theory and put it directly into practice. Again, the original design, you learn things and then you put them into practice. It was not just all ambiguity, which is how some T groups, most are led today, where the faculty hardly says anything. That's not how this is designed. So join us for that. There's always workshops. There's the Leadership Institute of Seattle, which has certificate programs, a two-year program where you will learn from T groups and learn how to do all the organization development work that my father designed, most of it, and I continue that practice alongside my brother Chris and many other associates. So don't be a stranger. There's a lot going on. It's always changing. So be in touch, and it's on the website, crosbyod.com. I look forward to working with you in your organization or as you pursue things like reducing gun violence and decreasing racism in our society. Whatever your goals are, the social science of Kurt Lewin guides how to achieve those goals in a reliable way. And so that's what I apply and practice every day and invite you to.